Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Max Youngreis, and I'm the crypto lead here at Plug and Play. Previously, I was doing research at Stanford on CBDCs, worked for a Palo Alto-based blockchain startup, who is now the blockchain tech provider for the Korean government, and spent time at an early-stage fintech startup in New York City. Here at Plug and Play, we have been making a major push to build thought leadership around crypto, blockchain from a corporate innovation lens, through the launch of our crypto vertical and are doubling down on our investment thesis surrounding Web 2.5. That is investing in startups who aim to bridge the gap between Web 2 and Web 3. At Plug and Play, we are in the busy intersection between traditional FIs and cutting-edge technologies that gives us a unique advantage to understand what both sides of the technology stack are looking to work on together. As we know, crypto has dominated a lot of the headlines in recent months, with venture capital funding for blockchain startups reaching $25.2 billion last year, up 700% from $3.1 billion in 2020. With digital asset startups both in the early stage and growth stage seemingly becoming in the mainstream and beginning to blur the lines between financial services and popular culture, we're starting to see a lot more of these companies enter the mainstream. I have a few quick statistics that I would like to share, which might come as a bit of a surprise to some of the participants today. According to Insider Intelligence, the number of adults in the United States who will use crypto to make purchases in 2022 as a means of payment will go up by 70% this year, and by the end of the year will have increased to 3.6 million. One of the main drivers of this new trend is that crypto's volatility, historically a major deterrent for institutional and broader retail adoption, is being alleviated by the growth of stablecoins. As more and more crypto options become layered into how people pay, like through credit cards and digital wallets, we should see the beginning of higher crypto payment growth rates over the next few years. On the topic of global adoption, a survey conducted by Gemini Exchange showed that new crypto investors nearly doubled in India, Brazil, and Hong Kong last year. More than half of the survey participants within these countries mentioned that they started investing in crypto just in 2021. Here at Plug and Play Crypto, we have been approached by our excited corporate partners looking to get involved in the digital asset space and learn how they might refine their innovation strategies to be aligned with the most forward-thinking, bleeding-edge technologies being born in the digital asset startup ecosystem. With that, we've officially brought on our first partners for the Plug and Play Crypto vertical, which we will be officially announcing at our June 13th and 14th Expo event in Sunnyvale in 2 months. So we're really excited about that. If your firm is interested in learning more about how to get involved in the crypto and digital asset space from an innovation strategy perspective, please don't hesitate to reach out to my email here. With all that being said, we have a great group of entrepreneurs with us today that are building the next generation of digital asset startups. Over to you, Patrick.
Hello, everyone. Good morning if you're out here on the West Coast. Good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Thanks for tuning in today. We've got some really exciting startups to share with you. We've got 3 startups that are paving the way, but first we're going to go over the agenda. Max, thank you for those wonderful opening remarks. Here shortly, we'll start our startup presentations where we'll allow each one of our 3 startups to showcase their technology and answer any questions that the audience might have. We're also going to be having the panel discussion after each startup has presented. And then in order to ask questions, please answer in the chat or put them in the chat if you have any questions pertaining to the startups, as well as raising your hand. We'll call you forward on stage in order to ask your questions directly. A few housekeeping rules. We've been doing this for a couple of years now, so everybody knows the rules. Please submit questions in the chat, and then also remain muted unless you are presenting. All right, and without that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Up first, Each startup will have 7 minutes to pitch, followed by 2 minutes of Q&A. And then each startup after they present will have a poll. Please answer the poll indicating if you would like to be connected with the startups in order to have further discussions. And without further ado, we will hand it on over to Slik, to Arpit Argwal, who was one of the co-founders and is a serial entrepreneur, founding engineer of Sunshine, where he worked directly with Marissa Mayer, former engineer at Google, and has a master's of CS from Illinois. All right, without any further ado, Arpit, take it away.
Thanks, Patrick. Hey, so hey, I'm Arpit, and we're going to talk about ransomwares. And we're going to talk about how ransomwares are being solved by Slik using its innovative technology and leveraging the blockchain. And ransomwares have been plaguing the entire economy of the United States for the last couple of years. We've all heard about it in various news articles. So I'll just go over them in a couple of slides. And so how was exactly 2021? We were plagued by ransomware attacks left and right. These are just a few of them, like Colonial Pipeline hack, the Kaseya attack, the JBS meat plant attack. They disrupted the entire household of almost every household in the East Coast. What exactly happened was bad actors, they just took control of our own data. We were logged out of our own systems, we weren't able to repair our systems, and we were at the mercy of those bad actors, waiting for them to just get us into our own systems. And who was impacted? Not only just the big organizations like the Accenture or the Cognizants, but those smaller organizations as well. Even the hotels or motels down your street were also impacted by ransomware attacks. The worst was some were able to pay it out and some would not. And there was an average of $2.4 million that was paid out as ransom per attack. And that has been that. So some organizations were able to pay it out, but most won't. The future of ransomware looks extremely bright for the bad guys. That's what has been quoted around, and we at Slik are here to solve that. What Slik does is it provides preventive care for your data. We use military-grade encryption and the immutability of the blockchain in an innovative way to make it extremely secure, so that your data is never lost. You're never logged out of your own systems. It's extremely simple to integrate with Slik as well. It takes less than 2 lines of code to integrate Slik into your systems. Just a simple call to secure your data, does all the magic in the back, and puts it inside an immutable storage. So even if a supercomputer tried to break it, it would not be able to. It's extremely high performance. We've tested it for gigabytes and terabytes of data and have been using it for the last couple of years. Over just the last 4 months, more than 650 gigabytes of data has been secured using our APIs. And users from a variety of backgrounds, from healthcare industries, universities, DAOs, fintech companies, and law firms, they've all used our systems just to protect their data before something bad happens. We're backed by some of the best people in the industry, right from Plug and Play, Idea, Collab, Syndicate, Seed Club, Balaji Srinivasan, Ryan Salkis, the ex-CTO of Coinbase. And if you want to be protecting your data, set up a call, reach out to us. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Arpit. I know I have a few questions. Mainly, if everyone will just real quickly answer the poll, indicating whether or not you would like to talk to Arpit after the event. We'll go ahead and give you some time to answer that. But in the meantime, I'm curious to know, what size of companies do you think should really be thinking about ransomware protection? Like, what's the minimum threshold that you're seeing? At what point do they seem to be getting hit with a lot of ransomware attacks? And how well do you guys integrate with those level of companies?
For sure. What we've seen from data is essentially companies from like really small companies, which are less than 100 employees, even they've been attacked, and companies as big as Kaseya, who have tens of thousands of employees, they've also been attacked. So it's been a wide spectrum of companies. And the worst part is even small, we've seen individuals also being attacked in the last couple of years. And that's the biggest challenge that we're trying to solve. And so for making sure it's extremely simple for anyone to integrate, we've made our APIs in a very simple to use format, which anyone, any average developer can integrate in less than 10 minutes into their own systems.
Wow. Looks like we have a message in the chat here. What do currently available ransomware protection tools look like?
That's a great question. The current tools that exist are only trying to protect the data on systems while you're going through a ransomware attacks. So essentially, they're trying to protect you in case there's a ransomware that is happening on your system. They try to lock you out or protect you in that case, which is a little late into the system, and the penetration at that point is highly unknown. So that's what we do is we start from day zero when you start building your systems or just fixing your systems right away so that you don't face any problems in the future.
Gotcha. And then we have another, looks like we have another message in the chat from Nolan Sheffield. Why is blockchain needed for this solution? What sort of benefits can we expect to see for switching?
For sure. So blockchain provides a very interesting property of immutability. And what immutability does is it does not let you edit the data. And we use that with our own encryption algorithms to store data via the blockchain and on the blockchain. And it basically uses game theory techniques just to make sure that every piece of data that exists on the blockchain is always available. So it has not been done before, and it is something very, very new, but that's what we leverage.
And then the other question is, how do I access my data?
That's a great question. It's a simple call. So there are two methods that we have. One is to secure your data, and you get a data ID back, and you can get the data using the same API with that data ID. So it's as simple as a get or a put call for accessing your data.
Gotcha. And then does this solution also integrate with cloud-based services like Google Docs or Outlook, for example, or is it all based off of your own sort of data files that you have to upload manually?
So it integrates very well with your systems. You essentially, as a developer, you can integrate the solution by just making a single API call. So based on what services you're using, either you're working on an Azure platform, or are you working on an AWS platform or Google Cloud, that it doesn't matter, or your own private cloud for that matter. You can just call the Slik APIs from your systems, and you would be secure from the get-go.
Gotcha. And then obviously this is a very broad-reaching technology that can be used in many applications, but are there any particular use cases that you see as or business units that you see engaging and having the most traction with?
For sure. We've seen a lot of fintech companies trying to protect their data, and it goes without saying they have a lot of sensitive information, right, from PII to financial data or invoices and things like that. So those pieces of information have are extremely sensitive, and people just want to use our APIs to back up that system, that particular set of data. That's where we've seen the maximum amount of growth. Also, not to forget the healthcare industry, where there is a lot of PII again. We're actively integrating with one of the healthcare industries companies out in the Bay Area. So that's also one attractive area.
Awesome. All right, Arpit. Well, if there's no other questions in the chat, we'll go ahead and move along. Looking forward to seeing you on the panel.
For sure. Thank you.
All right, up next, we have Monica Goad from coinfirm, which is an analytics and compliance platform powering the mass adoption of blockchain. Monica, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, guys, so I represent coinfirm. I'm from a partnership channel. Today, I would like to give you the basic information about our platform. So, as a coinfirm, we power the mass adoption of blockchain in the new financial system. Just a second. Okay, sorry. Okay, so we provide anti-money laundering software platform for crypto market participants. Our platform is used by virtual asset service providers, exchanges, protocols, financial institutions, and governments, and also many, many others. Right now, we have a list of over 250 customers. These are mainly banks, custodians, crypto exchanges, payment providers, DeFi, governments, and financial institutions. Our core product is generating AML risk reports, and we generate around 3 million AML risk reports per day. What distinguishes us on the market is the highest coin and token coverage. Right now, we offer 360,000 coins and tokens. We support them, and by the end of this month, it should be 1 million. We support all standard crypto market participants in meeting regulatory requirements. We target companies like financial intermediaries, trading platforms, crypto exchanges, gaming business, wallet providers, and custody service providers, liquidity providers, payment service providers, miners and transaction processors, crypto asset developers and issuers, and investors in the crypto asset market. Also, what distinguishes in the market is the largest data set. It's more than 1 petabyte. So on everyday basis, our investigation department collect on-chain and off-chain data, information from dark web, blacklisting, networks of our partners, reclaimed crypto investigation, and order books from over 100 exchanges. And here we have some screenshots from our platform. Let's just have a look at the most important features. AML risk reports, this is our core products, the most complete evaluation of blockchain wallets and all transactions across the largest crypto database. Here we have 330 our proprietary risk scenarios. Our reports are available online on PDF and also via API calls. Also, very important feature, monitoring panel, monitor all transactions on all indicated wallets in real time with no human analysis required. So here the alerts could be fully customized based on the jurisdictions, on the transaction volume, and if there is any increase of risk, our clients are automatically informed about this risk and what type of risk was indicated. Here we have visualizer with proximity paths. Here we have the visual presentation of the historical transactions on blockchain. Here we could check when in the past was the close connection with the illicit funds and illicit activities. So here we track assets to identify counterparties and transactional patterns, customize investigation parameters, and automate deep research of blockchain. So here we could check the source of funds, destination of funds, and fingerprint of activity. All this information about the high risk reports, high risk blockchain addresses, we could collect and store at the case management. This is the dedicated place in the platform. It allows for investigation and evidence collection for addresses from blockchain supported by the AML platform. We also right now service reclaim crypto and investigation. If there are any victims with the stolen funds on crypto, we could in very short period of time support them, locate the funds, and support in getting them back. Regarding some examples of the businesses that are already using our platform, from the banking sector, it could be Swissquote, Nexo Bank, Arab Bank. We also cooperate with the biggest crypto exchanges like Binance, Börse Stuttgart, Crypto.com, or Bitwala. Recently, we added some new protocols like Cardano, Dogecoin, Polkadot, and Solana. And from the partnership perspective, some examples are Avalok is our partner and also our investor. And we also, regarding the investigation side, we very closely cooperate with Kroll Global. Thank you.
Awesome job, Monica. Should have a poll popping up for people to vote on here soon. But in the meantime, I've got a few questions for you, actually a lot more than a few, but we'll go ahead and start with one. So you guys got your start in Europe, obviously. Is that where your largest market share is, and how are you expanding outside of that region?
Okay, so right now we have more than 250 customers and partners, and they are all over the world. Our servers are located in European Union, so we are fully compliant with the GDPR policy. So we also target the European market, but this is not the only market that we target right now.
Gotcha. And then what comprises your risk model and what goes into it? You mentioned that you're pulling a huge data set. So what exactly are you pulling from that data set?
Yeah, so right now we have more than 330 proprietary risk scenarios, plus dedicated team for collecting off-chain data that is scrapping darknets, which goes into our modeling, plus robust investigation tools to track funds, including the mixing, find association, and fully evaluate crypto addresses.
Gotcha. It looks like we have a couple messages in the chat. What chains do you cover, and do you track DeFi swapping like Uniswap?
Yes, we are working on Uniswap. It should be ready pretty soon. We recently added a lot of new coins and tokens. There is a lot of chains on our website. You could find the entire list of coins and tokens and chains that we support right now. But these are the main popular ones, plus a lot more.
Gotcha. All right. And then you mentioned that there were some specific regulations that you had in mind while you were forming this technology. I'd like to know, what's your viewpoint on the regulation as a whole, especially in the US? Are there any certain regulatory indicators that you're looking for in order to factor in for your future product offerings?
Regarding the regulation, I guess it will be the biggest hurdle because the masses will adopt through financial institutions. And so we have to, be up to date with all of the regulators, and we have to inform our customers about new laws, new things that are coming.
Gotcha. All right. It looks like we have the poll up one last time. If you'd like to meet with them, please indicate now. After that, again, Monica, looking forward to speaking with you in the panel as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. Right. Up next, we have OLYN, and OLYN is a universal asset registry reinventing commerce and how we exchange value in Web3.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. So this is Anna. Yes, and yeah, I'm co-founder at OLYN. Basically, let me share my screen here. So well, OLYN is basically an asset registry service built on blockchain. But the foundations of why actually we considered building OLYN is because we realized that once a purchase happens, basically the asset lifespan ends with its receipt, right? And there is a lot of ownership and provenance locked in paper. And like the second reason, perhaps, like it's really linked with the fact that we believe that personal wealth comes really from ownership, and either it's physical assets, as like we discussed, digital assets or financial assets, right? So as we realize that Web3 comes with really strong features, and when it comes to the future of the internet, looking at the foundation of commerce as a 50 trillion business, 50 trillion, an asset, basically, it can be purchased, identified, like collected, registered, tracked. And nowadays, like for each of one of those names, there is like a user-centric solution, as we can see here, right? Our solution is basically asset-centric. What we aim to do is enable people to capture ownership at the time of transaction and taking friction away. So every time there's a receipt, what we actually do is collect those events and enable people to save in their wallets the identity of the asset. Once that, and for that, like we have what we call OLYN wallet available App Store and Play Store. But what are like the ultimate benefits of it? It's that we believe that the information is some sort of like a parallel that represents the value of the asset. And in this case, what we have built through our APIs, enabling third parties to inject what we call solutions in terms of warranty, insurance, adding all sorts of information linked to the asset that will be ultimately stored in the wallet. So with that said, perhaps like ideally it would be to show more of a demo of how actually our technology works. So as I said before, like here's like a normal shop that we actually built to demo this out. As I'm going normal user trying to purchase this asset, you will see like our system, it's embedded actually at the time of transaction. As I'm checking out and continuing with the payment, in this case, like it's merely a test, I'm receiving additionally to the receipt as it's being processed in the transaction. In this case, I added my email. So I'm receiving with it let me refresh this. So here's like ultimately the receipt that in this case, Shopify, since we're injected at the point of sale system of Shopify, I'm receiving also like the asset transaction. So now I come with OLYN wallet and I get the chance to redeem this asset. So I will from the email, and I can see like the transaction, and now I have my asset on my wallet and I can see ultimately being registered on the chain, right? Basically what we believe that the ultimate value in here will be, it's if I get to see, this will be like what we actually consider right now, the web version. So in this case, like if actually this ends up to be like tennis racket in this case, that it sits on my inventory, here's where I get to have all my registry built on the chain, the insurance that can be attached to it, and then services linked to the asset. In this case, this is a tennis racket that is registered at the time of purchase. And additionally to it, like we enable through our API services to connect us. Where are the closest trainers? Where are the closest players that are willing to play with me? So we are at the very early stage right now, trying to get our solution ultimately embedded at the time of transaction. But our approach is enabling the re-commerce phase of those assets circulate easier and hold its value into a digital chain.
Awesome, Anna. Thank you so much for the presentation. It looks like we have a chat. Bernie, thanks for the question. I had the same one. Obviously, merchant involvement is critical. How is this happening? And have you considered incorporating with services like Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, Stripe, etc.?
Right. So any single point of sale system, actually, it's like it's a partner that we're actually discussions with, and that's where like most value comes into it, because the validation comes from the payment transaction. So basically, we're building it as being the opposite rails of Visa in this case. So every time a payment happens, we know like that payment there's actually executed for a reason. We absorb the asset identity and then provide the registry to the user ultimately through the wallet. But point of sale system is where we're actually targeting as a partnership.
Gotcha. And then when it comes to everyday consumer goods like hoodie, clothing, for example, that I think I saw in your use case there, how is depreciation factored into the value's lifetime?
So what we believe is that like every time there is a purchase, almost there is a bet, right? Like imagine like in our case, like once you register this asset in the store, if ultimately you have ended up like paying a certain amount for having been like an early believer to it, since we link public data into the asset ID, like it happens like 2 months from now, Lady Gaga ends up buying this sunglasses per se, like its value might increase. Like we have another example of like merchandise that is signed by like famous athletes, and ultimately like if they end up like winning a race or like becoming like truly champions, like those assets might increase in their value. So we see a lot of gamification happening as like assets are being registered and held. So it's literally envisioning ownership to a different dimensions at this stage.
Gotcha. It looks like we have another question in the chat from Yvonne. Can you clarify the customer problem that you are addressing, and why is the chain of title relevant for consumer goods? I understand the importance for art, for example, but kind of going to, yeah, what you just mentioned, but if you could go into a little bit more detail about that.
So ownership, it's a big thing. And I think like next generations are going to approach this differently, but like the way like today in the basically in the digital space, we just transact, even though like we live in a times of value exchange, right? In the real world, like you pay and then you get like that physical thing, but in the digital space, merely like just a transaction has happened. And like there is a certain value of holding the asset identity for like the minimum thing will be to have this identity like much easier to put it back in a secondhand marketplace without having to recreate its profile and having the trail of provenance linked to it. That will always increase the value of the asset. But facilitating and enabling people to have their own inventory of things, that's where we go back to the idea of in like using these Web3 tools to allow circular economy and sustainability by digitalizing the manuals guarantee, and not only like having this e-commerce space facilitating its means to the end.
Gotcha. And then it looks like we have another question here. What's the benefit for the consumer to have their goods worth less than $100 on a blockchain? And I think that question also reveals another sort of question, another layer to this puzzle, which is, is there like a minimum threshold for you guys in your eyes as to what assets should be on chain? Or do you think everyday items as simple as buying a t-shirt from, I don't know, H&M could be put on a chain?
Right. So one of the important things for us as a value of the technology is being neutral. Like we're not a technology that gets to say what is valued to who. So we're just a service at the time of transaction. And we believe like every time like we look actually at eBay or secondhand marketplaces, like what type of assets they have sort of like posted, it's kind of surprising to see like people actually spend time to post like one glass that costs $1, right? So like the idea is that if ultimately we believe that like all these assets should circulate back again, and initially it starts with capturing its identity, we don't want to kind of play in the role where we get to say what assets actually are worth to stay on a chain or not. So it's up to the user as we are a service at the point of sale system to decide which one of those they actually ultimately want to keep it on a wallet or not.
Gotcha. And then does your wallet integrate with any marketplace for them to be able to resell these goods that they put on chain?
So for now, one of the things is that like our API enables like e-commerce platforms to expand on the features of the asset as it gets published on their e-commerce side. So basically, because it sits on the chain, what enables like the Web3 tools is have a smart contract embedded into it by instance royalties. Like brands like really are looking into this as the biggest feature. Like right now, like we will like initially start with our own marketplace and within the app and enable like the swipe of these assets internally until like we figure out like what will be the ultimate best rails to expose this asset on like a secondhand marketplace that currently has its audience, but assuring that the smart contract will follow.
Gotcha. And then we've got one last question from Grant in the chat. Is the product purchase received and marked to be shipped automatically, or is there a burning mechanism to receive it at a later date?
So right now, like the way we deliver, like as you said, like it's a service, it's an asset register service at the time of transaction. So once it's captured, once the payment is made, like the service will remain in there for the owner to come at any time and to capture it. Like what we believe is that we want to take as many friction as possible from that process, right? But it will be ultimately the user's interest if that asset that it's about to be claimed actually it's holding like the digital manuals, the guarantee, the warranty, which is like the things that we're looking into embed to our API right now in connection with the brands.
Gotcha. All right, Anna. Well, I know I'll be watching closely as you guys grow to see what areas you end up developing. I'd like to ask the other startups, so please rejoin us here in the chat. So Gina, if you could bring them up, and please turn your cameras on to start engaging in the panel discussion. Give it just a moment to get everything set up. What's up, Monica? Hey, Arpit, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
All right, so as we get into this panel, each of you represents sort of a different layer and different piece of the puzzle here when it comes to blockchain. Obviously, Slik is addressing data security. Monica, your company is addressing any money laundering and how to track and how do we know if we're having any bad actors, sort of KYC space. And then Anna, yours is looking at customers and getting assets and more B2C and how to really give them more value with their assets on chain. So I would love to know, what do you guys see in your respective industries as the biggest hurdle to overcome for mass adoption of crypto? And if you were a financial institution or a corporation, what would you be doing right now to ensure that you're prepared and you're helping to facilitate that? I guess we'll go ahead and start with Arpit since you presented first. We'll just go in the same order that we presented.
For sure. I think the biggest hurdle in adoption of crypto has been the usability, and it's been extremely hard to like really set up wallets, set up all those integrations, move over your fiat to crypto. And I think the biggest unlock, as I think Max also started out with, was having that Web 2.5, the bridge between crypto and the existing Web 2 solutions. And that's how the best adoption is going to be. And I think that's where most startups are gravitating towards, and the ones that are actually making some movements in the industry. And as a financial institution, I think there are a lot of use cases that if I was a part of a bigger company would be looking at, like I think all three startups that exist today on this panel, I think at this point are all solving really critical problems in the entire space and are solving in a very Web 2 native way so that it's simple to understand. I think just following those would, just trying to understand and engage with those problems a little bit more would just help.
Gotcha. Monica, you can go ahead and answer. And before, if anyone in the sort of who's in the group here or in the audience would like to ask questions, chat box is open, and you can also raise your hand and we'll bring you on stage to ask them in person if you'd like. Monica, go ahead.
Thank you. So from my perspective, the regulations will be the biggest hurdle because they are changing all the time. There is, different jurisdictions, different regulations, different law. If I were the financial institution, I'd be hiring the most talented people to build a digital assets team internally and start building or acquiring a tool we need to have to be successful in the AML space.
Gotcha. And Anna?
Yeah, I think like both Monica and Arpit had like strong arguments like also perhaps like as many Web3 initiatives in financial services can be characterized as lacking like very fundamental user-centric design principles. Like that will make, like that's one of the things like I believe like UX UI is going to play a role, because ultimately like we do care like in a very like freak way about how the internet's supposed to be and what roles we play in people's lives, but majority like really don't grasp it unless like it really comes along as something like very intuitive to use. And going mainstream will like be something that, first of all, other things will be required to fix, like we said, like regulatory parts, but also like maybe gas fees and all these, like right now it feels like a little Wild West. That's why like I believe like there's so much to be done and so much to collaborate, and that's what makes it most of the fun of it. But definitely like as more solutions are evolving, like it's a very promising industry.
Gotcha. It looks like we got a question from Kavi here in the chat. For Slik, are there any desktop and web apps that individuals and teams can use to leverage decentralized storage? And for corporations, how big is the ransomware industry today, and why should they care?
For sure. Yeah, Slik does have a desktop app and a web app and a mobile app, essentially, where you can that you can use to back up your own personal data from a consumer standpoint. So let's say you have a lot of files that you have on your desktop that you just want to back up. So we provide a very simple and easy to use interface where you can just drag drop your files and then back them to the decentralized web. It also comes with ransomware protection out of the box. So you get those security principles right from the get-go. As I think is also the other question around how big is the ransomware industry? It's massive. It's more than $6 trillion were lost in either directly to pay out ransom or for repairing the services, that the damage that actually happened because of ransomware in 2021 alone. So, and it's $6 trillion. It's not even 6 billion. It's 6 trillion, and that number is just massive. And we've not even I personally believe that number is going to be much higher in the next couple of years, and that's my prediction. But I think we'll see, and that's why we just came out with the solution as a more of a developer friendly, so that more people can adopt it, not just a consumer.
Gotcha. And then sort of to steer the conversation back to eliminating the hurdles that you mentioned, particularly when it comes to user interface and user experience, what is Slik doing in order to facilitate that kind of a streamlined interaction with the corporations that you work with and with the individuals that you work with?
That's a great question. Any user who comes on the Slik platform, they would actually be surprised. Like, there is nothing that they would have to worry about while they don't have to interact with the chain at all. They don't have to interact with the wallet per se if they don't want to. So we've made it as simple as as Dropbox or Box or any Web2 application where you just log in through Google or email or whatever you'd like, and then have the same functionalities, even pay using a credit card for that matter if you want to use our services. So we've made it dead simple for anyone who just wants to get the benefits without having to learn so much. Like this, the inertia should be as low as possible. So that's what we're trying to do.
Gotcha. And then sort of to go back on the regulatory track, are there any sort of regulations and regulatory hurdles that you're overcoming?
I think maybe Monica might be in a better place to answer that question in terms of regulatory hurdles that exist. But we've been fortunate enough at this point because with just to SOC 2 compliance, just because all our data is already end-to-end encrypted, we personally don't have to go through regulatory compliance per se. It's just essentially like Signal for all your data that exists. We've all used the Signal Messenger or WhatsApp or Telegram for that matter. Well, Telegram is not end-to-end encrypted, but I hope that answers some of the questions.
Yeah, and Monica, do you think we'll see any regulation around sort of data management when it comes to, I know there's a lot of regulatory hurdles that institutions have to follow now when it comes to data security. I know that there's been huge breaches in the past. I mean, namely Experian and all of the things that they had, all of the pain points that they had. So do you think that we will see any regulations that will be requiring people to implement sort of blockchain technologies because of the security features that they offer?
I think that pretty soon something will happen because security is very important. Fraud detection, being compliant is also more and more important every day. Also, there are some countries that are leading in setting more mature framework for regulation, for crypto regulations like Switzerland or UK.
Gotcha. Looks like we have another question for OLYN. How can corporations get involved with you? Like, what are some of the best use cases that you see for your technology?
Sorry. Just to specify, corporations like such insurance companies, or like, are we talking?
Yeah, I mean, there's a wide range of applications that and sort of embedded things that I feel like you could put into the application, you know,
Right.
and they like, yeah,
Exactly.
and stuff like that. So what are some of the best use cases that you see for a corporation potentially partnering with you guys?
I see. So yeah, like as I mentioned, like insurance companies, like that's a huge right now conversations that we're like having on and on. Basically, having the like right now, one of the things like most of the corporations see as a big potential is building this new market in terms of post-purchase services. Like right now, the only services that come like are basically returns, but we believe like there's so much on in it, like all these services embedded, what we perceive from the technology point of view is like once that asset sits on the owner's wallet, like the asset itself becomes the meeting point where services that third parties want to deploy, they can do so through our API.
Gotcha. So OLYN, again, I have a question for you as well. As the mass adoption of crypto unfolds and over the next few years, what items do you see as particularly important to put on chain, whether it becomes homes, cars, etc.? And what can financial institutions do to help facilitate that and promote blockchain as a service to its customers? Or does this kind of threaten their existence in a way? Like, where do you see, I suppose, the market moving, and what assets do you think are necessary to put on chain?
Right. That's a good question. Basically, we, as I said, like we're a universal asset registry, right? And we kind of like go from the obvious of, oh, anything like today, like it sits on a registry, wouldn't that sit on a blockchain already, like from car or like homes, right? But we believe like proprietary rights and titles should be there for every single thing you pay for, right? And basically like financial institutions have tried actually to sort of build services in the transaction and make like more and more flourished experiences for the users to have. At a certain point, there was like an attempt of like, you know, having your digital receipt embedded in the transaction, but there's like a lot of like, there is a lot of lack of trust of the user, ultimately, like, you know, financial institutions owning that deeper layer of data over like what the user has in its consumption. So what we expect is actually financial institutions to embrace like this type of vaults. Like already we see like some banks or fintechs are enabling like, you know, storing crypto, or like Visa is like getting in the space. So in our scenario is like, we believe that every time you swipe that card or you make a payment, like the same app that you're using should hold a vault where actually you can keep your assets. And that's what we want to provide through OLYN, like enabling like the wallet that we have right now to sit on other wallets by allowing this vault to happen. As where like proprietary rights, like we see right now and the pilot programs that we're launching, it's very much linked with sport equipment. Like you purchase this thing and therefore you're part of a community. And then now you have all this, because you own this thing, like every single thing you purchase physically, like it's almost like an extension of your DNA. Because I own this, therefore I can do that. Because I own a tennis racket, I can play tennis. Because I own a bike, I can ride it and like be part of a group of riders. So that's where we see like things are like going more and more. Another use case like that's sort of strong is like saying that, oh, like I can actually attach services that can allow me to have this asset on the metaverse. So right now I can hold this tennis racket and play with it in a game. And that would be like an extra cost linked to a physical purchase you made.
Gotcha. And then do you think that in order for financial institutions, and not just financial, but any other corporations that come along and want to utilize your services, do you think that they're sort of waiting to implement this technology until more regulation, I suppose, is rolled out? Or do you see it as something that regulation isn't really much of a risk for you guys and your team?
Well, we definitely are not like at the verge that like crypto assets are right now. Like we're just a token, which is basically the representation of the title, right? Whereas crypto is more like, well, it's what enables you to actually purchase all these things, right? So like we're like in the token space versus the like coin crypto space, and Of course, there's like the regulatory parts, like you're trying to transact these assets on the second phase of the asset lifespan, and how will like actually the taxes apply to it. But at the stage that we are, like, we come as a beneficial thing by telling people, hey, you know, you're not only worth what you have in your bank account, but also all the things you own. So I like what we're trying to, it's actually force regulators to not like change their approach of like, you know, printing manuals, for example. Like, why like we're still getting like all these like paper linked to an asset? Why is it can be like digitally? And all it's linked because there's like an approach of making sure like ultimately like the owner will get that. So as we see like wallets and identity being most of the thing in the internet, like we see like things coming all together in an orbit to make this possible. But we're forcing regulators to change their mindset in terms of paper.
No, that's what we like to see is, yeah, a lot of times the regulators are learning alongside of us all, but they're the ones who make the decisions. So us like pushing them to figure out what they need to do and what they need to say is exactly what entrepreneurs should be doing in this market space right now.
Right.
So to transition the conversation a little bit to Slik, and when it comes to sort of how businesses should be thinking about data and everything. So there's many areas, obviously, outside of crypto or outside of currency that crypto touches, as Anna just mentioned. So Slik, for example, you specialize in decentralized file storage as well as data transferring. For a company to utilize your tech, there's obviously going to be a bit of a learning curve involved, as with any new technology implementation in a business. So what advice would you be giving to companies right now looking to increase that internal buy-in with crypto technologies, and what business units should they start educating, and how should they start educating those business units?
I think, yes, there is a bit of a learning curve in understanding why exactly the blockchain is helpful. And I think it will, it's going to take a couple of more, events that, transition the global movement towards the blockchain, like the NFT craze in 2020, 2021 has definitely made a huge shift and, got a lot of people involved. I think the biggest business units which probably need to be involved, need to be following situations or like the entire space is definitely, the financial institution, like the financial, I would say, vertical within a company, or would it be the engineering team as well? I think as the product and engineering teams, they have a lot of value to unlock using the blockchain technology, and be it receipt tracking all across the internet, like that's something that Anne's doing, right? So something what Monica is providing in terms of providing the AML services for companies, only if product and engineering teams just kind of understand what exactly are the possibilities of using the blockchain. That's only then can they actually understand of how they can possibly integrate and transition over, and not only just transition, but it's also just adopting how the blockchain can actually enhance their own business lines. Like for us, for example, like Slik, providing ransomware protection for your data from day zero is a good thing to do as for just sanity of your systems, just to make sure that your systems are always running. Just getting to know that is an important part of the entire equation is important. I think the product engineering teams would possibly be able to take those calls.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And I remember seeing a post that your team did about Pixar and how they almost lost their entire like backend data for Toy Story 2, and it was saved by somebody just happening to have a copy of it because they had to work from home one day. Exactly. And so, yeah, I think that there's tons of, and your technology completely addresses that. And I think there's lots of different use cases that businesses aren't thinking. They may be distracted by tokenization and that physical currencies that are behind it, and not really thinking about the sort of underlying technologies that could implement and help improve their business practices. And Monica, I'd love to hear your input as well on what you think businesses should be doing, particularly in the regulatory space. What should the legal teams at these departments be digging into when it comes to researching blockchain and different currency options?
So I think that here we have to focus more on the regulations, jurisdictions, As I mentioned before, we have good frameworks for regulations. Here we have Switzerland, Singapore, UK, also see El Salvador. But I also hope that things are certainly moving in the US too. Given the size of the market, and if the things continue to progress from the recent momentum, I think that the US can still be the leader in shaping the landscape. Also in the industry is constantly evolving. There will be innovations in technology and more chances for US, European markets to take the first stand in the regulations as all of the innovations are coming.
Gotcha. How far along do you think we'll have to get before, like how much time do you think we have before we've missed our shot to become the leaders in regulation and leaders in crypto here in the US?
It's hard to say. We have to be up to date and see what the regulators will come.
Absolutely, because I know that's not a window that's going to be open forever. One of the countries will figure it out, and they'll figure out the good recipe for that. And then Anna, to let you have the final word here, what do you think business units should be educating their teams on when it comes to crypto, particularly with marketplace solutions like yours? What teams need to be educated in order to implement your technology in a seamless manner?
I believe like this is like definitely a moment where a lot of, let's say, new concepts are coming along, and the education itself needs to start with the intention and understanding like the market opportunity we're talking about and addressing like the needs of the people, right? Like I believe like right now, one of the things like it worries me the most, it's like it feels so more sort of a battlefield where there's like defending the interest of the old school way of doing things, right? And like I'm sure like I've seen like big corporations like having teams that come up with like new proposals and they feel like being up to speed, but there's no ultimately like implementations that can happen mainstream. So one of the things is perhaps like bravery on understanding like there's going to be sort of like controversy in the space, but taking initiative and learning from how others are perceiving and getting close to the subject such this, right? Like being in the right room. It's one of the things I also suggest the most for teams.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, hey, we should be wrapping up. We've got a couple minutes left. So thank you all so much again for coming out and sharing your insights with us. I know that you all represent a large portion of the knowledge here in crypto, and you're the entrepreneurs paving the way. So we salute you. Hats off. Hopefully that we can connect during Expo. Yeah, again, in the chat, if you would like, we're going to be sending follow-up emails to everyone who attended today. Just a request to see if they would like to meet with any of the startups, give you one last opportunity and one last chance to go over a couple of quick announcements. If you're going to be in San Francisco for Finovate Spring, we're going to be hosting a happy hour with Scan AI and AirKit. We'd love to see you there. If you're interested, please reach out to the team and we'd love to get you connected. We're also going to be having our Summer Expo in June, which will be the culmination of all of our batch programs, where we're going to have over 150 startups presenting over the course of 2 days in over 19 different industry sectors. So if you're on an innovation team or you're a corporate or C-suite and you'd love to get some more exposure to some startups, we'd love to host you out here. So please, again, reach out to myself or Max in regards to that. With that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next month. Have a good one. Bye.